So, do you find yourself struggling in building true long life connections while enduring the calling of bonding with others of like minded uh, thoughts and lifestyle? Well, this is the conversation that would explore the depths, functions, and purpose of the relationships that you're looking for, and it will enhance the quality of community. And dare I say, the quality of our lives through a level of success. Though a level of success is possible individually, but together, I believe that we can change the environment around us, around our success, and we can grow together. So, with that, let's go ahead and get into this conversation about the secrets of lifelong brother and sister bonds. All right. First question I really want to throw out there just to open up the discussion, brothers. What is a brotherhood or a sisterhood in your opinion? And to caveat, is it a universal male or female fraternity or sorority?
Two-part question. What is a brotherhood or a sisterhood? Uh, I would say either one of these hoods would be two or more people who have a common bond or something that holds them together, binds them together, where they see things the same way and they hold one another accountable to whatever said standard is. It's just a bond, a bond. And is it a universal fraternity or sorority? I think there is, it's not one thing. So whereas one person, like the AKAs can have a sisterhood, the Qs can have a brotherhood or a fraternity, for whatever it is that their bylaws and everything says that they're striving to achieve, and they hold one another accountable for that. So, is it universal? It's a universal, uh, I guess, policy or universal. It can be spread around the universe if you want to look at it like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in line with that. Is it a universal concept? It can be. But when you look at what a brother or sisterhood is, I think, like Roland said, it's like two or more people who have a common bond, a common belief system, whatever. It's like looking at siblings, right? We have common parents, and under the umbrella of the parents that we share, there is a belief system that equates to the things that our parents believe. Therefore, that becomes a structured way of life. Um, so I would have to go with that. You know, it is a concept of a common belief system that draws people closer together.
Man, I love that because especially when you start talking about the common bonds and connection, because I think so often we believe that we as men we have a universal, you know, fraternity, like, oh, and or not even we think, but I think a lot of time women think men stick together or women stick together in all things, and that's not a, to me, not a brotherhood or a sisterhood. That's something else that can be cultural or societal. But when I look at a brotherhood or sisterhood, to me, this is my brotherhood right here. Um, these are my brothers. This is, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to discuss it in this circle right here first. I'm going to get the opinions of these brothers. And I believe that they're going to try to champion me on through that. So to me, that's a brotherhood. Um, and is it universal? I think I would say no, because every circle is different. Everybody is different. There's no one way of doing things. But how we do it because of the foundation of what we believe. Um, with that, let's dive right into these questions. So our first topic today is going to be talking about boundaries within these relationships. So my question is, should there be individual or collective boundaries in a brotherhood or a sisterhood, or both?
Yes.
with Coach, because I think with anything there, individuals should always have their boundaries, because if you don't establish boundaries, then people don't know when they're offending you, when they're not necessarily, or how far they should go or could go, because your boundaries may not be mine. So if I don't establish them and you overstepping, and then I look wrong when I'm putting you back in place. So, yes.
So I was the reason why I jumped out there first, right, to say yes, because again, it's how I see boundaries. Boundaries don't necessarily tell you how to behave; it's tell me how to behave. And so when it comes down to the individual boundaries, absolutely, I think regardless of whatever hood, I use that term loosely, whatever hood I belongs to, right, my boundaries they regulate my behavior. So whether it's a brotherhood I belong to, whether it's a sisterhood I belong to, whether it's the government entity that I belong to, or whatever, right? My boundaries for me governs my behavior. When it comes down to the collective boundaries of that entity, that brotherhood, that sisterhood, that whatever, they have their own set of rules on how we should govern ourselves under the umbrella of that entity. It's almost like a code of conduct. And if I have a code of conduct already, then ideally, if I'm a part of this thing, then my boundaries look very similar to theirs.
Yeah. When I look at a brotherhood or sisterhood, and I do get it. I believe my boundaries are my responsibility, right? Govern how I move and what I will not allow myself to be pulled into or to do. Um, okay, but when I when I think about a brotherhood or sisterhood, and this is the reason why I thought what made me think of this question. I think sometimes we believe that I have exclusive access to 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 Roland, or I have exclusive access to Coach, and so certain things that they have expressed don't apply to me because those are my brothers. So I can just jump right over whatever. You can't do this with Coach, but I can because that's my brother. What do y'all feel about? What do you feel about that?
I think that when you have these common, but it's not just about a common bond, because like we're all men and we could all be, we've all spent time in the military and these things. So that doesn't make us have a brotherhood. Now we may have a similarity, or we may have a similar brotherhood when it comes to military. Like me and Dwayne, we spent time in the military where we had adversities in the military during the same time frame, doing the same things. So now we can have a bond or a brotherhood. If I talk about 220, it's like, okay, we have a familiarity there where we can have a bond with that thing, with that organization, to where we bonded and we have gone through adversities and overcome, so we can bond over that thing. It's the same way with family. When you have a family and they have gone through some things, it's like, okay, me and my sister, we can be fighting, but you ain't jumping in this because we have the bond, because we've gone through the adversities. I know what it's like to have gone through this with her, whereas you don't. So you don't have the right. So that boundary is set right there. Like, hey, it's not just about blood, but we've been through the ups and downs together. And I know that she's standing strong with me. So I'm not going to let you do these things or say anything derogatory about her.
Yeah, that's why when I mentioned it previously, it's not the commonality of our lowest means of existence. It's not because we're men. It's not because we're women. It's not because we were in the army or we played on the same basketball team together. It's more of the belief system. And the belief system becomes the thing that unites us and brings us together. And that belief system would literally have you go the extra mile for the person. So it's the belief system that creates the bond. If we just simply looking at, and I'm just using this as an example, if we just look at skin color, you guys know just as well as I do. All of us who have the same skin color don't bond together. So at the end of the day, we cannot be based upon the lowest version of our existence. It has to be based upon something that carries a much more meaning, much more meaningful as a belief system. And if the belief system is the thing that creates the bond, then that's the thing that moves us to behaving in such a way that we go the extra mile for one another. It should be between siblings, but as you guys know, it doesn't always exist. So at the end of the day, when we look at it, does that give me the opportunity to leapfrog everybody else? I don't decide that, you do, right? If I reach out and say, hey, I have a need, then, ideally, sure. But a lot of times what we do is we tend to look at things through the lens of what I would do if you reach out to me, right? If you reach out to me and I know we have a common bond, if I'm busy, I'm either going to text you and say, give me a minute, I'll call you back, or I'll stop what I'm doing and answer the phone. And I got a great example for that. When I first left Oklahoma, and this was shortly after I retired, when I first left Oklahoma to move to Augusta, I literally left Oklahoma at 8 o'clock that night and drove through the night to like maybe 4 o'clock in the morning. And I was just exhausted. I had to go to sleep. So I got a hotel room, took a nap, woke up, made it all the way into Augusta. But when I got to Augusta, I literally slept all the way through to like 2, 3 o'clock that afternoon. But I'm back on the East Coast. I'm going to get me some Waffle House, bro. So I go to the Waffle House and I'm talking on the phone to my man Zay. I take my wallet and I sit on the counter and I walk out and I leave my wallet on the counter. Everything. I was supposed to start my new job the next day. I called this one cat and he was like, man, I'm a little busy right now. I said, not a problem. Don't worry about it. I called this other dude I was stationed at Shaw Air Force Base. He said, give me 2 minutes. I'm in a meeting. Within 2 minutes, he called me back. He didn't ask what the problem was. He asked me, where you at? You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing I'm talking about. There is a bond that is literally created through a belief system, and that thing will supersede other things that take place in your life. And then that'll make you move on another person's behalf.
I like that. I like that. I like that. But coach, when I reach out to you though, and now you're not busy, I know you got professional needs, but I'm your brother. I mean professional qualifications, and you charge for a lot of your services. But I need that discount. Little bro need you to cut him short a little bit.
Discount your money when you give it. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. But okay, so I'm glad you said that, right? Because I think a lot of times that's what we think. But here's the thing. Remember, my boundaries govern my behavior. So if you have a business and that's what you do, then for me, I would never ask you for a discount. In fact, I'm that person that wants to pay full price because that's what you do. And so instead of looking for the handout, which is kind of common, amongst us, I hate to say it that way, hook a brother up. It's kind of common amongst us. Instead of looking at it that way, we should look at it the other way. Because we have that common bond, because I know that that's your business, I'm going to be not only the first person to participate, but I'm also going to be that person. And no, I don't want no discount. I'm going to pay full price because that's what you do.
I'm in full agreement there. You got any thoughts there, Ro? I see him rubbing his beard. Look like you're thinking.
I'm gonna continue to think. Yeah.
Already. Let's go to the chats. Miss Verlene McCoy. Good evening. She asked a question. She said, "What is a bond? Is it a feeling or emotion towards that person or a sibling? How, brothers? How would you describe what a bond is?"
I think we all have those feelings for family or feelings for people that we've gone through things with. But when you aren't on the same page when it comes to like when I go home, I'm living a certain way. So if you aren't living that way, because doctrine, my learning, my teaching, everything tells me that this is how you move. And if you're not moving that way, I can't speak to, we may have a family bond, but there's certain things that my boundaries say I'm not doing with you. I'm not hanging around here because we aren't on the same page. We aren't headed in the same direction. And I know anything that I do with you will probably stunt my growth or my progress.
I love this question. My initial short answer is no. However, I'm answering that way for a particular reason. Because just flatline looking at the question, it kind of gives the impression, I don't think this is what she is asking, but I want to make sure I address the question from all sides. It kind of gives the impression that the feeling or the emotion must exist in order for the bond to exist. Well, if that's the case, the minute that I don't feel a particular type of way, then we no longer have that bond. This is the reason why you see people get married. One minute they love one another, they get a divorce. I can't stand that person. I hate that person. How can you hate somebody that you once loved? It's impossible. So it's not the feeling or the emotion towards, it's the bond, and based upon proximity, the consistency of the relationship that grows into a level of intimacy through what we tend to call transparency and vulnerability. Then the emotion and feeling develops after that. But the bond, the belief system must exist first. Once the belief system exists, then drive forward. Let's be honest. Can I just baseline it real quick? When mama have another baby, which turns out to be my sibling, boy or girl, I don't love that thing yet. I'm just gonna tell you the truth. I gotta grow to love it. I have to, spend time with it. I gotta nurture it. I gotta help mama take care of it. Once time goes on, then I grow to love it. She carried that baby for 9 months, not me. I'm the child now. I might be in my feelings. You think about it. A lot of kids go through this. I might be in my feelings because now this baby fitting to take time away from me. I ain't signed up for this. I was the only child for 7. I'm telling my truth now. I was the only child for 7 years. Now this other baby come along and I got to help you take care of it. I'm mad. But then eventually over time, because we share the same parent, eventually over time, I grow to like it. Then I grow to love her. Then I grow from loving her to treating her like she's my own child. And then I become the best babysitter that my mother had. So that's the thing. It can't be based on feeling or emotion because those are finicky at best.
So it sounds like the connection has to be established. And exactly. And that's why, and we all know how it is with anything that you go through, whether you're in a fraternity, whether you went to basic training, they made it to where you had to depend on one another because initially you didn't even know one another. You didn't like how this person walked around with no shower shoes on. This person left hair in the drain. And then now you see, okay, with all your differences, you have some commonalities, and now you grow to work together. And through that work, now you develop relationship, and then relationship builds into a bond.
Absolutely, I agree with these brothers. A bond is something that is established with time, whether it's siblings or not. She asked a follow up. She said, "What is the secret when they don't or won't bond? When they don't
Bernie
want
Mac
to?"
said it best. No, let me stop. No, I say Bernie Mac said it best. But when someone doesn't want to bond with you, I'm not forcing you to enjoy the whatever the ability to be around me or to be in my life. I will never force someone to, hey, you're lost. No problem. I don't think anyone should ever try to force feed themselves on somebody else because what you do is you build up a resentment when that person doesn't feel or do what you want them to do. That has absolutely nothing to do with the bond because the bond is established. It's not forced.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's when someone doesn't want to bond or they won't bond. I think the secret is patience. I can't make you do anything. I don't even. I should never get to the point to where I overextend myself as well. Right? People pleasing is a very dangerous game. If you don't want to bond, I give you the space that you need to recognize that. Hey, it is what it is. Once you come around, once you decide you want to bond, then I'm here for it. So the secret is patience and always leaving the door open. But don't run out the door, chase behind them, and say, "Please come on in the house and eat." I got. No, don't do that. Like, let them be. Like, everybody has the ability to make their own decision. Everybody have the ability to have their own opinions. Let them have that. If they don't want to, it's okay. Eventually, they'll come around.
See, this is one of those questions where I wish we had brother Chris, because he'll say something like, "Hey, take the L, take the loss," and I don't. But in this scenario, I don't look at it as a loss. I don't gain anything from staying in a situationship where I am not where I am not appreciated, respected, uh, wanted, or I am able to have to bond with the other person. If there's no bond, what are we really doing? We're not bonding on any level, professionally, personally, brotherhood, sister, whatever hood you come from, right? As Coach said, if there's nothing there, there's nothing. What are we doing? We're fooling ourselves. We're playing ourselves. I know there's a lot of people who stick around in relationships because of the kids, and there's no bond. And then you look at them, you're like, man, how did they get divorced after 20 something years of marriage? Because they only stayed together to raise them kids. They didn't like each other. It was there was no bond there. And that's why there's always, you see some relationships that's always bitter, that's always bickering, that's always arguing. You have to create a bond before you can move forward into anything. You have to establish that relationship. All right. Uh we moving on with time. Last question in boundaries. What are some healthy boundaries uh in these type of relationships and in these hoodships? I'm gonna start saying that. You just got me on the word hood. But what are some healthy boundaries? Or do you think that there shouldn't be a limit? Your boundary is your boundary, and that's okay if that's the answer. But what are some healthy boundaries to set in a brotherhood or a sisterhood?
Um, I think. I mean, yeah, you know me. My boundaries exist between the book of Genesis and Revelation. And I think those are healthy boundaries to establish. But for those people who do not believe as such, um, I think the boundaries that are healthy for them are the ones, and I kind of talked about this on Tuesday night, the ones that promote PME, psychological, mental, and emotional health. So you need to understand where you are psychologically, where you are mentally, and where you are emotionally, and not create dependency through somebody else. A lot of times, what ends up happening is people attempt to have these connections, these bonds, whatever the case may be, and they equate to some degree of dependency. And it's probably based upon some unresolved trauma that they experienced in their life. So when it comes down to establishing healthy boundaries, they must first understand what healthy looks like for them. Some people have a higher level of resiliency than others. So I can't say that this is a blanket question for everyone, because at the end of the day, everybody needs to be able to do some assessments on themselves. Once they're able to do some assessments on themselves, then that tells you whether you have the ability to be in certain situationships to where certain people have not necessarily done the work on themselves. If a person haven't done the work on themselves, I don't necessarily think that that's a good person to create a connection with, because you're going to become their scapegoat for everything that doesn't go right in their life. So understanding where you are based upon PME, psychological, mental, and emotional health, and then understanding that people who believe like you believe within a certain reason, those who have done their own work on themselves, those people are safe to have connections with. Again, my concept of boundaries is my boundary, my yard, my work. So at the end of the day, my boundaries are all about my behavior. If I encounter someone who does not have boundaries in their life, it may not be a good idea to be in a situationship with that person, because at the end of the day, they may end up in your yard and trying to tell you how to do your work.
Healthy boundaries within a relationship. I think truth. You got to be able to, if you can't speak truth to a person, you can't be honest with that person and not worry about how you feel about it, because it's not about your feelings right now. It's about us establishing this true thing. And that's why everyone can't, like, somebody can say what's true, but you may not have that bond, because so what they're saying, you may not take it the same way. Like if one of you guys told me something about myself versus somebody I don't have a bond with, even though it may be true, we don't have a bond. So it's like, dude, you don't know me like that. So you can't necessarily come to me, or I won't receive it the same way as if someone else says it, even though it may be true. So I think being able to speak truth to a person, being able to be honest with that person and say how you see it, not just what you feel, but how you see it. I think that's a healthy relationship, because then in a relationship, I respect it, or I can at least hear it. Whereas if we're not in said relationship, I'm gonna tell you, go fly a kite, because we don't have that type of relationship. But when you have it, that's one of those healthy relationships where I may want to, but it's like, okay, that's coming from coach. So I got to take that, suck that up, go think about it, and then come back and talk to him. Say, Doug, I appreciated you coming to me with that, because it helps me get straight. Because when he's speaking the truth, it's not coming from him or me. It's coming from what we agreed upon as our guideposts. So if we say, hey, the scriptures would guide you, and he say, Doug, this is yada, yada, I got to, yeah, because it's bigger than both of us.
I agree with everything. First and foremost, my boundaries are going to be set, just like Coach said, between the front cover and the back cover. All right. In between there, that's where my boundaries are set. But what that means is that's where my responsibility of how I carry myself and how I ought to behave and how I ought to even treat you in this bond and in this relationship, in this brotherhood. And so I think when we start actually laying out certain things that are boundaries to us, I think it's real important to search out what it means to be a brother or a sister, right? Um, when I look at relationships like David and Jonathan, the bond that was created caused Jonathan to assist David in evading his father, knowing that he was the one anointed to take the throne from his father. The bond was greater than the family's ambition. And some of us, we got things that are cultural, that are family, or that's just how we act as family, or this is just I'm a gaddy, we do it like this way. And sometimes that dictates how we treat each other people, or how we treat each other versus what the scripture says. So to me, I think it's important that we actually search out and really search within and search the scriptures and see what a boundary is, what a relationship is, what a brotherhood is, what a sisterhood is, so that we can keep this together. Any other caveats before we move forward? All right. Let's go on to the bro or the sis code. Now, sisters, I'm gonna need y'all in the comments on this one, all right? Because I really want to know, what is a bro code? What and to my sisters, what is a sis code? What is that?
I think that's been used many different ways, but it's the established protocol between the parties of how we move. Now, when I was doing other things, some bro codes be like, hey, if I call you at 2:00 in the morning and tell you to call, because I've been in that situation where somebody called me and say, hey, when my old lady gonna call you, say me and you was at such and such. No, dog, I don't do that. But some bro codes, they want you to move like that. Whereas when you're grown and mature and you're moving a certain way and you say, hey, I am following, the bro code can't be, hey, you got to lie for me. No, because our established protocol is not established on lying. So the code has to be rooted and grounded in whatever it is your faith is, your doctrine.
Foolishness. That's what this is. It's foolishness. Stop it. Stop it. Cut it out. Y'all know that's what this is. The bro and sis code is foolishness. That's all it is. Y'all know. Listen, you never heard anything about a code until somebody stepped out of line. Man, you done broke the bro code, man. You know what I'm saying? Come on. You know, you got to sound like the old dude that smoke a pack of Winston a day. You know, that's how you got to sound. There's no such thing as no code. The code is only when you violate what I needed you to do for me when I'm doing something I had no business doing, right? That's the only time you ever heard of it. So, I mean, that's all I got. It's foolishness to the third power.
So, well, to the third power, exactly. So the next question, then I think I feel like I know your answer. So, are there any automatic laws, rules, or expectations in the brotherhood because of the bro code or the sis code? Like my nephew put in the chat, he said rules like I can't talk to a friend's ex. Is that a real thing?
That's a
I'm not talking to y'all. Anyway.
That's more societal foolishness, because I think that insecure people get hung up on things like that. When you're done with the person, when the person is done with you, I don't care if they see the person on the moon or the person next door. Has nothing to do with me, because I'm not in their relationship. So it's not a code thing. So are there automatic expectations outside of the bro code? Yes. That's why I know how you brothers are going to treat me. I know how you would treat my family. You know how I would treat your family, not because of some code, but because of what we've learned and how we move and how we've been taught. So now it says, okay, if you're reading this, does it tell me to treat you a certain way? Yes. That's why I don't care what color you are. I don't care what your denomination is and all this other stuff. I'm going to treat you a certain way, not because of who you are, but because of who I am and because of who I follow, what I say I follow. So that's the expectations. Be who I say I am, and that you can expect that.
But that last thing you just said, that's the automatic expectation. The only expectation I have is on me. So when it comes down to stuff like that, my expectations begin and end here. You don't get to put expectations on me. I appreciate you thinking about it, but no, stop. You're getting into my yard now. You see what I'm saying? You can expect all day long, but here's the thing I'm going to tell you. You might as well expect me to disappoint you, because it's going to happen. I always say that expectations between people, that's the prerequisite of disappointments. So when you have expectations for me to do or not do not be surprised if I, come up short in your opinion. Now, here's the other side to it, based upon what asked previously. There are these things called integrity, right? Integrity matters. So at the end of the day, if, whatever, like say, for example, one of my brothers, they just, them and their significant other don't make it. Well, in my mind, that's to me, and I can't speak for nobody else. I'm not even going to venture in that category, because at the end of the day, I don't want to cause any confusion between me and my brother. That's me again. Now, what another person expects, again, that's on them. but the automatic expectation is on me based upon the belief system that I have for myself.
I like that, Coach, because when it comes to this whole expecting people to be a certain way and move a certain way, I think that we live in a society where people love to see people fail, love to see people fall. It's the same way Mr. Baby Old Man right now. Everybody's on board and they looking at it like, oh, I knew this and I knew that and he did this, and they're standing in judgment. And I'm looking like some of those things that he's been accused of doing, I could have been in those circles if it had not been. So I can't judge that man and say, well, he deserved this. Not some of the circles, with back in the days, way back, when I had the strength. No, I'm just kidding. Man, stop making faces, man. You messing me. No, but when it comes to a lot of people's falling short, I could fall short. So I can't be the one standing up on my high horse when another person falls short of something, or I can't stand there in judgment of them because they fail. And then if I'm a person's brother and they do fall, I don't look at them like, yeah, I knew it. It's not my job to put them down. It's my job to lift them up and try to show them how to steer the ship right.
I'm still stuck on you could have been in some of the circles, bro. I'm sorry. I can't help it right now.
I wasn't invited.
Hey.
This goes back to the screens earlier, man. Oh, man. All right, my bad. I'm sorry. I'm back. I'm good. Y'all don't pay me no mind.
It's the Mr. Baby Oil Man thing
You know
for
what
me,
I'm saying?
but
He couldn't help it. He couldn't help it.
y'all know, bro. Man. So, but I really want to dive some more right there in the. I can't have expectations on you, and I almost fell out my chair when you say thank you for thinking of him, but no, and though that was funny, but I really think that we believe because you are my friend or my brother or my close pal, whatever title, I don't really know what they use today, but I should be able to expect you to act how I see a brother or a friend to act. And so is that what's creating? Because I really feel like that's where there's a pressure point at. That because I hear a lot of, and I hear from a lot of women too. I grew up around a lot of females, and I always hear, well, she know better. If I do this, this is what the expectation is for you. If I can look out for you this way, you got to be able to meet me half. Like, so how are these expectations really holding us captive? I really want to dive into that some more.
I think it's a good question. I believe wholeheartedly that when it comes down to the notion of relationship, there is a very misguided concept that exists in the subconscious mind of most people. People believe that relationships are supposed to serve them. That is totally wrong and backwards. So when it comes down to you serving me, that fuels the expectation that I have. Well, if I do this for you, then you should do this for me. Right? Because at the end of the day, I'm existing in relationship based upon a mindset of survival, right? It's what I can get from you, me, and me. Because I exist in the world of me, I'm still immature in my mindset. Therefore, I don't necessarily realize that relationship is the most pristine, exquisite place in which you can serve somebody else. Like you got to look at it like this. The fact that you're in relationship with another person is a gift. And if said gift is before you, you have an opportunity to be there for somebody else. So you should take joy in another person going through any type of trials and tribulation, because that is an opportunity for you to show up and allow the character that you possess, being an ambassador of the Most High, to allow the character that you possess to show up in their life. Therefore, he can flow to you and through you to them. But what do? oh, I just don't, I'm going through this, I'm dealing with this. Why? Because I'm expecting you to hear this, have a little compassion on your behalf. Therefore, you give me something to make me feel better. Well, here's the other thing that we don't necessarily realize. Some of the things that we go through are things that we go through because of the decisions that we made. And if the things that I went through are based upon my own decisions, whenever you come to my aid, I may not necessarily learn the lesson that I'm supposed to be learning in that particular moment. So it shouldn't be a foreign concept that if I'm going through it again, a Brigade, hey man, I hate to call, and whatever the case may be, and I wouldn't have called if you wasn't the last resort. You know what I'm saying? But then the last resort happened every 6 or 7 months. So how am I always the last resort? Because in your mind, I have the ability to, and I'm not going to miss it. So that's like, I think when it comes down to relationships, we need to kind of search our hearts and understand, do we really understand what relationships are all about? And I'm not necessarily talking about male and female. I'm talking about all relationships. Do we really understand what the concept of relationship is all about? And if we don't, if we miss that, and I'm gonna give a perfect example to that here in a second. If we miss that, then the question that we need to ask ourselves is why? Where did I learn relationship from? Or did I not learn it and I just assumed it based upon what I've seen other people do? And I think the last one is what most people do. They never sat down and had an honest to goodness conversation about relationship. What friendship looks like, what marriage looks like, what siblinghood looks like. You know what I'm saying? But you go to work and you recognize at work, I have a job. My job says do this, do this, do this, do this. And at the end of the day, I get evaluated on how I do this. And if I do not do what my job description says, then it is highly likely that the company will give me a pink slip and say, hey, appreciate you coming out, but your services are no longer needed. How do we understand that in the workplace that I have a job description that I must do, and I actually interact with my coworkers? Whether I do it from the kindness of my heart or begrudgingly, I still do it because the job requires me to do it. That is a relationship. You have a relationship with the company and you have a relationship with your fellow employees, with your coworkers. We can go to work and we exist in a workspace and we execute relationship. I won't even say flawlessly, but we do it better than we do in our personal life. And then we change gears when we get off work. And now all of the people that I'm in relationship with, their job is now to serve me. Bring me all your goods, bring me all your wares, bring me all of your attention because I have a need.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to watch this again so I can write all that down. but Coach said a mouthful for real, and it's about expectations because if I'm expecting you to be a certain way, that's all up here. That's me putting everything up here on you and making you responsible for it when you may not be able to and you aren't able to. So that's all on me, and that's arrogantly my fault. Because if I'm expecting you to be this, now I'm lifting you up to a certain position, and when you fall, my world is shattered. When you don't meet my expectations, now I'm all messed up because I put you in a position that you had no right being in because I'm not looking at you as being here with me. I'm putting you up here. You're supposed to be better than that. You're supposed to be. So now it's like I'm not giving you any room to be a man or be a woman. Now I'm pushing you to the point of being supreme. So expectations will lead you down a path to where I can't remember exactly what Coach said, but it will lead to disappointment. And that's all it'll lead to.
That's why I have the mindset, like one of the, and it's like you take nails and rake it down a chalkboard, right? One of the worst things that I hear is people say, well, not people. I'm going to do both sides so y'all don't get me after I say the first one, right? One of the worst things I hear women say is that a good man will. How do you know? Where did you get your data from? What relevant experience do you have? Your daddy? Nobody said your daddy was good. He was just your daddy. Stop it. Same thing on the other side. Men say a good woman will. How do you know? Your experience is your mama. She's just your mama. That don't mean she was good. Go back and ask some people. You might learn something. So that's the thing I'm saying. Like, people don't have any relevant experience about what good looks like. They only have the experience about what their experience tells them. You perceive it to be good until you meet better. So what people need to get to the point of doing is opening up their mindset and realize that my experiences are my experience, nothing more, nothing less. It doesn't make them good. It doesn't make them bad. And it is what it is. Let that be good enough. My mom is my mama and my dad is my daddy. I don't need to identify to you whether my mama or my daddy is good. Them being mama and daddy is good enough. And I think we get too caught up in the adjectives that we can put in front of a noun because we're looking to quantify a thing with no relevant data.
And we never look. You can't go back and see what built your parents' relationship or what built those people's relationship to make them to where you see them where they are now. What you do is you see them smiling in your face like, I used to go to church and be a certain way in front of the people. And right after, I was a hellion. I was whatever, because I could put on that mask right there. And it's the same way people do every day. I can smile in your face and be all happy and be wanting to end it all because I know how to put on the facade. I know how to put on the mask. And we do that daily in relationships with people that we care about and don't care about. So having expectations of people is all about you and your ego of how you think you should see them versus how they truly are. But when you get to truly know someone and get that bond to where you are like Jonathan and David, you are like Paul and Silas, you are like those people in the scriptures to where they recognize one another's flaws and didn't hold it against them. But what they did is they acknowledged it, and they didn't have a super califragilistic expectation of these people that they couldn't attain.
You know what I think we did? We looked at the David and Jonathan, though we didn't hear no more of that relationship after David became king. Well, I mean, we know Jonathan had to fall on the sword, but we don't know what was going, how that relationship was going to proceed after that. We take the happily ever after and tie it to Ruth and Boaz, and we say, that's my Boaz, or that's my Ruth, and but what does that mean? And I think where these expectations come from is because, as Coach said earlier, we put the expectations on the other person, when really, if that's your Boaz, the expectation is on you to act like that's your Boaz, to treat him as he's your whatever you view Boaz to be. You have to take care of that. I used to hear, I had a chaplain that used to always say, the grass is greener on the other side. It might be, but somebody mowing it. And it takes a lot of water to keep it green. All right. So the work has to be done. If you think, if this is your expectation, but I think what happens too much is we got told a lot, men find women like their mothers, and women find men that like their daddies. And then when we get with them, we expect them to act just like our mama and our daddy. Well, my mama used to, or my daddy wouldn't let. And you're not looking at what I could be. You're looking at who you want me to be. Yeah. Y'all agree, disagree right there? That's how I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. And that's why I stated previously, like, where did we learn relationship? And I think that has to be a thing that we go back and take a look at. When did we learn what friendships look like? When did we learn what relationships look like between male and female? All of those things. And I think it's important. I think it's important for us to assess ourselves and see how we show up in the space. Like, am I dependent? First of all, am I a good person? Right. And when we use the term good, we mean a particular thing. Do I display those qualities to where I can be identified as good? Am I dependable? You know what I'm saying? All of those things matter. And I think, unfortunately, because that has not been a staple, then what ends up happening is that, hey, I just want you to accept me as I am. No, I'm not. Sorry. No one should. No one should ever accept a person as they are and give them the right of passage to where they don't have to do any improvement. That is the biggest. That is one of the biggest and worst mistakes that we've made. We have a responsibility to grow. We have a responsibility to be better tomorrow than what we were today. I just had a great conversation with a brother of mine, and I love when we talk because he always asks me questions, and those questions always take me down a rabbit hole to I have to talk about what the scriptures say. I don't want to give him my opinion. It's not my opinion that matters in his life. When you ask me a question based upon a particular thing that you're dealing with, I must go back to the scriptures and then break it down so that we can understand it and implement it every day in our life. This is what this says, therefore, this, that, and the third. And until we do that for ourselves, until we go back and research what the scriptures say, look at my life and compare my life to the scriptures, don't try to change the scripture to fit what it is I'm doing. Make sure that the scripture change what it is that I'm doing so I can fit it. If I'm not doing that in the space of relationship, then the question has to be, what am I doing?
I'm there, man. I'm loving it. I'm like Roland. I can't wait for the playback because Coach is dropping some gems. Well, everyone is.
And bars that he threw them bars out there right there.
Yeah.
It's the T. Dandelion and wolfberry. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Wolfberry, you know. Now,
hey man, I'll show you the tea bags.
you good. But ONCO say you ain't got a lot to kick it, you know. He said no. Man. And so this is actually a really good space to move into conflict resolution. Because these things, these expectations lead us into a real dark path of thinking when it comes to our relationships, because you didn't do what I expected you to do. You didn't act how I expected you to act. You know, I start having these feelings of resentment. And so my first question on conflict resolution is what are some sustainable methods in dealing with emotions and behaviors that are common to these type of relationships, such as jealousy, strife, resentment, selfish ambition, or what have you?
Methods of dealing with it. I think these people that fall into these categories need to first mature. What, tape them out? He'd say tape them up or something. But they need to mature. I mean, because when you're looking at jealousy, strife, all of that has to do with the individual expectations and feeling a certain way. And it's a selfish thing to please me. So if I'm not pleased with what I'm getting now, or if I'm thinking you giving what I think is mine, that's jealousy, because you giving what I think is mine away to somebody else. Now you're lifting yourself up to say, hey, this is me and this is mine. I deserve. So it's all about you. I think when you get to the point where you aren't jealous, aren't in that strife and resent mode and selfish ambition and everything, you realize that, hold up, I'm maturing to a point to where I'm setting boundaries, where I'm controlling all of these things. So these things that would normally affect me, they aren't affecting me, because I'm so unbothered by those things that I'm gonna let you be you. I'm gonna let you do you, simply because I'm not trying to control you. I'm too busy trying to control how I respond, trying to not control it to the point to where I'm a robot, but where I'm trying to look at it like, okay, how can I better myself to the point to where these things that you do don't bother me so much as I want to see you better off. So I help you even see you through these things to where I'm not looking at it as a negative that you're doing to me. It's something that you're doing to the relationship, which lets me know where you stand in the relationship.
I do believe in the duct tape method. Duct tape is the cheapest restraint on the man. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Seriously, I am. I think going back to what I said previously, right? My responsibility is to regulate me. So, in the midst of any conflict, and we really have to understand what conflict means, my job is to ensure that number one, my behavior is not the source of conflict. I'm not displaying jealousy. I'm not displaying strife. I'm not harboring any resentment toward anyone or anything. I'm not trying to force my selfish ambition on anyone. Again, these are minds to deal with. Once I analyze self and recognize that these things either exist or don't exist, then I know what to do moving forward. If they exist, my job is to apologize. That's simple. Nothing more to think about. Really, no need to have a posture of defense. Apologize because I have seen in myself that I have jealousy, that I have strife, that I have resentment, that I am displaying a degree of selfish ambition that may exclude my partner or my brother, right? If I do not, then I need to have an honest conversation with the other person. And in the midst of having that conversation, I point them back to the thing that bond us together, the belief system. It's not about how I feel, it's about what the belief system tells us. Because the way I feel only makes me aware of what is happening in the environment. I do not express the raw emotions. If I express the raw emotions without analyzing them, then the only thing that you're going to do is posture yourself up so that you can respond. So after the proper analysis, understanding why the emotions that I feel exist, then I go back with the information from the analysis and point you back to the belief system that bonded us together. If I can do that and train myself to do that on a consistent basis, then that should get us to the point to where we can mitigate conflict before conflict arises.
I definitely agree because it's about me. But somebody is thinking, and by somebody is me, but I'm gonna put it on the chat. Somebody in the chat is thinking, can you tell a person that is behaving that doesn't even know that they behave selfishly, that they're behaving selfishly?
Yes.
I mean, I know you can tell them, but
you got to be able to speak truth. That's like I just wrote down, I said, I'm just a man can be, but it's not just an excuse. Like some people use that, like, well, I'm just a man, use it as an excuse. But I'm just a man, meaning that I can fall short just like anybody else. So I have to be able to, my brotherhood, my our sisterhood, I got to be able to listen to you guys tell me, dude, you slip showing. You ain't acting right. Or I got to be able to listen to wise counsel. If not, y'all not really my brothers. Y'all not really, those aren't my sisters when I don't respect your opinion about how I'm moving. So now, yes, that's an absolute yes.
And I'm glad you said that, because that's why I say you have to understand what conflict really means. See, we believe that conflict in relationship is normal. It is not. It is a thing that presents itself when we are projecting some versions of incompatibility within our connection. So if I am governed by Genesis to Revelation, if I am governed by that, and if you are governed by Genesis to Revelation, then who's the judge? The judge is Genesis to Revelation. It ain't you, it ain't me, it ain't how you feel about it, it ain't how I feel about it. It's Genesis to Revelation. So where's the conflict? There is no conflict. So a lot of times, and I've heard this before, and these are people, and I hate to say it, in the pulpit too, right? They will say, oh, well, I can't wait to see you guys get in conflict. What? What does that really mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, am I saying that disagreements won't happen? Sure. I may say I want a white one, and you may say we need to get a black one. But at the end of the day, I mean, I'm using this as an example, of course, but at the end of the day, we always go back to the judge. What does the judge say? If the judge gives us detailed instructions on it, then that's the answer. And I think too many times what we do is we exist in a space to where we tend to live the gray life, which I'm learning. I just recently learned what that was. We tend to live the gray life. We're not governed by anything. We don't want to be too far over here. We don't want to be too far over here. We're staying in the middle. We're going to be great. So there is no governing body to how we're going to behave. So our connection is volatile because there's nothing to go back to. And that thing that was supposed to exist, being the judge, it doesn't exist. So the only thing we have left is the battle of emotions. And the person who is emotionally louder than the other one generally is the one that wins because they're going to wear you out with their emotions.
It's the same way people look at sin. They can say, well, she made me do, or she shouldn't have been wearing that skirt and all these things. But the scripture says that every man is enticed or whatever when he's drawn away from his own lust. And that thing is inside you. So it's a conflict within you because when you want to do right, wrong is right there. You got two choices. So you have to make the decision. Do I want to move over here? I ain't gonna get caught. Or do I want to move over here? So the conflict is in you and you have to work on that. That's why the work is always internal. The work is always self-improvement, not me improve them. I improve my relationships with the brothers when I improve my relationship with the Most High and myself, because now I know how to move in a way to where they can look at me and say, okay, they can see my progress. They can see how I'm moving and not be sitting up there worried about me doing this or doing that, because I am working on self and not worried about others.
And this leads back, because I don't think this question separates from the expectation conversations we were just having, because a lot of it stems from how I expected you to behave. I think too many of us are walking into these relationships, brotherhood, sisterhood, marriages, boyfriend, girlfriend, with an expectation. There's a girl right now that's talking to a guy, and just because she gave him the privilege of talking to him, she thinks he was financially responsible for all her luxury. I don't know anybody personally, but I'm just saying there's people like that. Like, there's an expectation, and I know that because they're all over social media talking about, oh, if you want my number, you got to be able to get my nails done. And I pay $250 a week on my, well, you're a fool, and some of them nails make some of y'all look like a clown, but to each his own. But your expectation is on the wrong guy.
But this day and age, it works both ways now, because some fellas, my girl that got a job and got their own place, and they go sit up at their house and play video games all day and do absolutely nothing. Refuse to look for a job.
They'll drive the gas out their car. That's what they do.
That's that baby boyism right there.
Or just wait for them taxes. Them taxes come, baby. I'm trying to put this CD together. I'm trying to do this. If you was for me, you would get it like, huh? Where does that work? I don't understand the mindset. That's a taker's mindset. That's not a builder's mindset. When you're trying to build, it says, I'm going to build me, and I'm going to get with you because I see you building you, and now we can build together. And we got to be on the same sheet of music. It ain't like I'm just taking somebody, you learning French and I'm learning Arabic, and I think we supposed to communicate. No, we got to be able to communicate beforehand. I understand that you're trying to gain your relationship, so you building yourself. So now when I look in the mirror, it's some things that I know I got to work on before I just say, okay, I'm going off my feelings. I'm going off my emotions, and I can't live without her. Yes, you can. You just bothered right now, and you want to spend some time to satisfy your flesh versus you working on that relationship with yourself, where you don't even have to look at her in that vein before you realize that there's a beauty in her that surpasses just the physical nature. Now you can grow in a way where y'all can just sit and communicate, sit and talk, sit in silence, just be in one another's company, to where y'all just growing and realize, hey, we on the same plane. We going to the same purpose.
Agreed. And there's so many distractions. Too many distractions, if we're being honest. One of the biggest distractions, and I got it, this isn't a popular response, One of the biggest distractions is climbing the corporate ladder. We will get, and I'm not against job. I want to make sure I'm saying that job has its place, but at the end of the day, I should never sacrifice my family for my job. But because we have that mentality and we get caught up in the concept of professional growth within the company, things of that nature, and then the company asks me, "Oh, well, we need you to work late. We need you to go out of town. We need you to do this. We need you to do that." Meanwhile, the family is home by themselves, waiting on me to come home. Eventually, whenever I'm finished, because I'm married to my job, but I take care of my family. Because that's really when you look around, that's really how it works, and it shouldn't be that way. Like the job itself should sustain us till we get to the point that we develop something that we both are working towards. Not we work the job until we get to the point of retirement and then get another job and then retire again. And then we don't really spend time together until we're in our 70s. And so we have the concept of the job wrong. And again, I'm talking specifically about, marriage now. We don't get to the point in time to where we spend our time together, when in essence the family itself is supposed to be a business. The family entity by itself is supposed to not only raise their kids up in the way that they should go, but they should teach their children business principles and business practices at a very young age, so that once they get out into the world, they may end up on a job for a very short period of time, or the best case scenario, that we have built something so profound that once the child becomes of age, they start working in what we built, and then they automatically, they automatically get to the point to where they can assume what we've established as a family.
So I'm with one of brothers says Lincoln. Oh yeah, Roger Pringle, when he says has to be team building.
Shout out to Roger. Good to see you, bro.
Yeah, he says I agree. It has to be a team building relationship, and I think that's what Coach just explained. We have to do this together. And Roland said it too. We have to be on the same journey, or journeying together. Like the goal has to be the same. The moment we start taking two different routes into two different places, we're no longer a unit. We're no longer a team. We're now individuals trying to be individuals at the same time, consuming the same space. And you can't do it because the space is trying to split apart. That's what's creating some of that tension. You're in the same space trying to go to different directions. It's pulling apart. You either have to cut it down the middle and go, or you have to decide which direction we are going to go together. But too many of us, but that's where my problem is when we started talking about selfishness, though, right there. Because many people believe that if you're not on my direction or my road, you're the wrong one. We we never even sit down and explore the difference between where you're trying to go and the way I'm trying to go, so we can figure out what's right. You already have set in your mind the way you want to go is right, and there's no other way but that.
About a year and a half or two ago, I remember Coach. He asked me. We were talking about books. He's like, "Okay, what you read?" And I don't care what the book. Usually, when I tell somebody about these books or whatever, it's just conversation. And then some of the books cost some money. So next thing I know, ding dong, we online. Coach getting deliveries to the door, and every time it was some book or whatever, he had the book. He got the book, and that made it to where our relationship grew, because for me, I said, man, he's serious about this thing. I say, he not just like most people running their mouths talking. He putting his money behind it, and he's actually looking into this thing to where he's growing, and now our relationship is growing. So I'm like, man, that's definitely. So now the relationship grows, and that's how it has to be, whether it's a fraternal, fraternal relationship, whether it's sororities, whoever in your circle, when you say, hey, this is our guidepost, and you have materials and that person ain't looking into that material, but they're looking for you for everything, that person is using you, and they are truly an anchor. They aren't helping you grow. They're an anchor helping you stay the same, because now you become their everything. I got to come to you about everything, when all they can do is let me look into it so I can study and so I can see for myself. Then they can actually grow, and we're both elevating, not one of us trying to elevate and you're holding the other, you holding relationship from growth.
Yeah, we have just enough time to get this final question and roll forward. So, and we kind of talked about it, but I want to actually dive into it specifically. But what are some healthy habits that we should explore while building these bonds to help minimize conflict and strife as much as possible?
I think when you having conversations, have honest and open conversations, but don't try to put people in a box. If you know something, whatever, asking open-ended questions will alleviate the yeah, nah, yes, no. So it just drops off. Because if you ask a direct question, most people gonna give you a direct answer. If you ask them how they feel about it, I'm good or whatever. It's like when you learn, when you're having communication problems, I think you look inwardly first. So when you work on self before you think about working on somebody else, it helps the relationship as a whole. And so when you're exploring the whole building process of these bonds, now you're looking at, okay, how can I grow so that I can help my brothers? Not how can I help my brothers grow? It starts with me. So I got to start with me. Okay, let me see how I can build myself up in this area, because I want us all to be stronger in this area, not me be the strong person that they come to. So now I'm building me up in said area, and I'm respecting that other person's abilities. And now I'm not looking at me as being up here and them down there. I need you for something also. So I'm asking questions. I'm learning you. I'm building a relationship, or I'm trying to learn you as I learn who it is that I'm becoming at the same time.
I like that. I agree. I'm gonna start off because Roland, you spot on, bro. I'm gonna start off with what I said earlier. PME, right? Psychologically, mentally, emotionally. I need to ensure that I am psychologically healthy, mentally healthy, and emotionally healthy. That's where I am going to start at. I think for the most part, what we do is we venture into the realm of relationship way too early. We've had, and you guys know it, in school, going all the way back, going back to grade school, right? That's how people get old. They start calling it grade school. They don't call it high school and stuff like that no more. So you were in high school. You probably wasn't a good friend in high school. You was just connected to people that you played sports with. You was in a band with, or whatever that looks like. But what is the evidence that you had back then that you had great relationships? Probably did not have a lot of evidence. You had people that you was cool with, you know what I'm saying? But great relationships. I mean, great relationships, to where you did what Roland just talked about. You did the things to where you were like, you were a point of contact for the people that you were in relationship with, and you wanted what's best for them. Not, surround yourself with the people who lift you up all the time. So you didn't have that evidence. But next thing you know, as soon as you graduate, you got married. And so the lack of evidence did not yield a future of having a great marriage, because you did not learn anything from the evidence. And so then you get into that situation, and then that situation didn't work. But there's a common denominator in all the relationships that you had, a common denominator in all the relationships that you had. This guy, right? So you always have to look at yourself first. You have to do the necessary work on yourself so that you could be a good person to be in relationship with. I don't care what type of relationship we're talking about. If in your mind, if you search all of your relationships and you look at them and all of them are feeding you in some capacity, then that's evidence that you need to do a good self assessment on yourself and start doing the work on yourself so that you can be better for relationship. When you do that and turn that into a progressive habit, what you will find is that not only you will start having better relationships, but you will have relationships that have depth and breadth. A lot of us are so accustomed to superficial relationships that we don't even know who we can call on if we ever get in a situation. Who, like, if I pick up my phone right now, who can I call if I need somebody? You don't know because you haven't done the work on yourself to be good for a relationship because you've never really been there for somebody. Sure, you may have been on the phone talking to your friend and been through a bad breakup, but when they ask you, or you when they got finished crying and all that other great stuff, your response was, "Oh, I just want you to be happy." What does that mean? You know what I'm saying? You gave them nothing relevant that they could use in their life. So these are the things that we're talking about. These healthy habits should get you to the point to where you become progressively better, not just, living in the skin that you're living in, but you can become progressively better for your family, you can become progressively better for the community, and you can become progressively better for intimate relationships as well.
I agree. It starts with me, um, before I even get into relationships, bonds. Shout out to my boy Ben Little that was on here earlier. I'm not sure if he's still tuning in, but that was one of my boys back in high school age. We didn't go to high school together, but we ran the same circle. We went to the same church as youth. And we used to run around. I used to go by his crib. I remember the first time I went to a gas station to get something to drink, but we were young, and we were having fun. And then when we grew up, you know, we had to have different experiences, and we grew different relationships, or what have you, in different spaces. But that process of growing up, I think we've done a bad job of telling our kids that they were perfect too much when we being little. And some of us, mom and daddy, always told us we were perfect, pretty, handsome, you go boy, too much, and never taught you how to actually work on yourself. um and so when we get into relationships, we get into the relationships from the notion that I'm already perfect. We get into brotherhoods with the notion that I'm already good. You're here to benefit me. I'm not here to benefit you because I'm already, you know, I I'm already good to you because I'm here. And that's not how it works. So I think there's a lot of internal work that has to be done, a lot of breaking down and unlearning that has to be done in us before we dive into some of these relationships, some of these even some of these hoodships, right? Brotherhoods and sisterhoods. Because I see I got that from you, coach. I see the smirk. uh, but it happens because it breaks down because we did the work first. We weren't even taught what the work looked like. And so I'm a big proponent of telling my children why I want them to do a thing. My kids, I got kids that are at the age now. So I want you to understand you cannot speak to your sister like this because she will believe that this is an expected uh, way of being spoken to by the male species. And I asked my 13-year-old son, how would you feel if your sister came home one day with a boyfriend and he was talking to her the way you talk to her right now? Because I need him to understand that he has work on himself to do. I tell my daughter sometimes, don't do that. It's not how a lady, you're a lady. You're a young lady and you're a kid, but you're a lady, which means you're beautiful to me, but you're not, you have work to do to become that lady. You have work to do to become that woman. And because they understand that there's an expectation of them outside of daddy's house, they know that they have to, hopefully they're learning that they have to look inwardly on becoming that or building that. So now we can get to the space to where we're saying, hey, I want to build a bond. I want to build a brotherhood. I want to join this group or this organization or what have you, because I can be a benefit to someone else because of who I am, because I'm working on myself. This is what resumes are for. When you go for a job, I have worked on myself up to the point of qualifying to do this job. So that's how I look at it. Yeah, I agree. I agree. The chat has been on fire today. My brother's been on fire. Coach has been giving us some gems. Roland has been giving us some gem. I love the wisdom of my older brothers. They come with it, and I don't say that jokingly. Every other time I bring up them being older than me, I am joking. But I definitely enjoy the wisdom that they impart. And so, with that said, it's time for us to dive into our bittersweet moment, our final thoughts, and then we'll be back.
We're talking about the bonds, the brotherhood, the sisterhood. We're talking about the bonds between people, because men can have those same bonds with women and women with men. My grandfather was a twin. My father was a twin, is a twin. I have twin sisters, and I was also having twin boys, but they miscarried. And none of those twins were exactly alike. None, they weren't identical. They were fraternal. That means they developed in the same womb and had separate sex. So when they came out, they had to develop a relationship. Now, my father and his brother, they are like oil and water. They never got along, and they still to this day don't really get along. And that's how it is with us. When we're headed in the same direction, we have a bond. When we have a bond, we have something that tells us what we can and can't do, what we should and shouldn't do, to where when we move forward, we may have differences, but we move forward in a like manner. And that's what makes our brotherhood or sisterhood connect. So when we have our, whether it be the Bible for you, the Bible for myself, or whatever it is for you, when you have that bond, that those instructions that tell you how to treat people, tell you how to conduct yourself, that makes it better, to where I can hold myself accountable, or it holds me accountable. So when I'm moving in another direction, my sister or my brother, they can correct me. They're not correcting me with how they feel or what they think. They're correcting me with what we've agreed upon as our instruction pamphlet. So when we have that, but I don't care whether you're a cute dog, whether you are a Kappa, a AKA, or whatever it is, you have something that says how you conduct yourself. And that's how you establish your bond. When you learn and grow together and build that relationship, that's where the bond comes from, not just us being born or going through the same passage. Because there are some brothers that you've gone through certain things with that you have no relational value for or with. So when it comes to us learning and having these lifelong bonds, that there are those people that you have, that you recognize as having value to you, because you understand that, hey, this person is not just going through this at the same time as me, they're looking at it in the same vein as me. So when we go through, I recognize the value in them, because I can see that in certain places I have a lack of value, but I'm striving to grow and be better. And they can see that as well as I can see it. And we're in this together, and they're helping me and I'm helping them at the same time.
I love this conversation. I think this conversation is much needed. Listening to a lot of things that were said tonight, especially understanding that most of the concepts that were spoken were based upon something deeper than emotions, right? Understanding that we get to the point to where we don't necessarily know how to regulate our emotions a lot of times in life. So there has to be something deeper, something more meaningful. You just heard Roland talk about, we govern ourselves according to the scripture. The scripture teaches me how to behave. That becomes the thing that I establish my boundaries for. What I establish my boundaries in. For people who have that same belief, we have the opportunity at relationship. So that becomes the thing that is the driving force behind my being as it pertains to other people. I treat them according to how the scriptures say to treat them. But there's also a story to where Christ, as a young man, as a young boy, he was teaching, and then they told him that your mother and your brothers are outside. And he asked them, "Who is my mother? Who is my brothers?" And then he referred to those individuals who adhere to what his father says, his father in heaven. Those are his brothers. Those are that's his mother. So I think we have to get to the point to where we have a belief system that is rooted in something much more meaningful than probably anything you've ever seen. Once we can do that, then we can get to the point of serving people in an authentic fashion. That to me is one of the issues with relationships. That being said, I just kind of want to shout out one of the people that we're building a bond with, right? Lisa Dove Washington, The Power of Shut Up. For those of you who actually have witnessed her podcast, she comes on Thursdays at 7 p.m. And it's an awesome platform. And this is her book. So if you want to go to Amazon, purchase her book. She didn't ask me to do this, but I'm doing it anyway. Right? This is what community is supposed to be about. We share with each other what the community is all about. That's what a bond is. Again, like I said, she didn't ask me to do it. She didn't even know I did it. But at the end of the day, those are the things that we're supposed to do. When Roland write his book, I'm gonna do the same thing. When Gaddy write his book, I'm gonna do the same thing. If you see in the chat, you got people putting information and so forth and so on. That's what bonds are all about. They're not doing it because, oh, well, they're getting paid X amount of dollars an hour. They're doing it because they believe in something deeper than themselves. And that's the key. When you get to the point of understanding that, then you can have much more meaningful relationships. However, if all you can think about is yourself, then my advice, stay by yourself, because that's the only way that you're going to make it before somebody exposes you.
I believe that we were put here for a purpose, and there's a universal purpose, of course, that is fear God and keep his commandments. But when you explore those commandments, I realized that it's about the togetherness of his people. If you say you believe in the scriptures and you say you believe in the Most High, I don't understand how you can read his scriptures truly and get to the idea of not having a circle, not having a brother or a sisterhood, not having a community of believers where we benefit each other with our behavior. So with that, I say that we have to start to do the work to build ourselves, to mold ourselves after Christ, after the Most High, after His Word, so that we can be uh, the proper people and person that we need to be, so that our communities can be benefactors of who we are. I should know what it feels like to be treated right because I'm in a circle of people who love and fear the Most High, and they will treat me right because that's who they are internally, because they have allowed the scriptures to mold their heart. Um, and I've realized that when I am in circles to where that doesn't exist, to where the bond doesn't exist, to where the only thing that exists is selfishness and no selflessness, then you have to vacate for your mental health. And if we are in a sisterhood or in a brotherhood or in a community, I think it's important that we understand, yes, Paul said it concerning the scriptures and doctrines, but I also believe it concerning the community, that we must mark those who cause division among ourselves. And we cannot allow them to sit into our communities, sift into our communities, and start breaking people down and start destroying people's mental health, because then it cripples the entire community. If you don't believe me, look at our community today, that what we call our community and our culture. It has been sifted into, and we've gone through so much mental health issues that it has started to deteriorate what we call the quote unquote Black community, right? And that is something that can only be fixed by walking with the Most High, by growing in the Most High, and being among people who are on the same journey. If the other person's journey is not to seek the Father, we got to let him go. We got to move forward. But that's all I got on this topic. It has been a fun, exciting night, right? I was nervous from the beginning. All right, I know I seem a little more nervous tonight because Coach put us to work this go around, which means I'm scared for what's the next go around gonna be, because I don't know what that's gonna look like. But it was definitely fun because I got to talk to my brothers. I got to sit in my brotherhood live, and people watch us do our thing that we do every time we talk. And it's something that can't be replaced. It makes the long weeks that we go through worth it, because we get to see our labor go forth, and our bond actually work how it's supposed to work, is bringing something to our community. So I enjoy that. And I always take my hats off and shout out to Coach for providing that for us, that space for us to go and keep and allowing us to be truly who we are in the Most High. So with that said, look, go through the chat and tap in with Crystal Everett. She's keeping us abreast on everything that we have going on. We have Coaches Corners on Tuesdays. We have the Hearts and Men, you are on every Friday. Right, 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. No, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. 7 o'clock. Listen, I'll be getting mixed up. I forget y'all ahead of us. Right, the banner below is going to help me out and help you out as well. Right, every third Saturday we got the Hearts of Women. Right, every Tuesday Coach's Corner, and every fourth Saturday we have reframing. I can't even read it.
Reframing the image of relationships.
The image, there you go. The image of relationships. I don't know how I always mess that one up. And listen, and if that's not enough for you, you can catch his time out.
No, you're good. That's supposed to be a T. You're doing good. Keep going.
Oh, okay. My apologies. And if that's not enough for you, you need to tap in with us some more. Catch us every Sunday brunch. So that would be 10:30 Central, 11:30 Eastern Standard Time on TikTok. I think this week is going to be the voice of reason. Our sister Lisa Keys. Listen, I'm excited that she's a part of that that group, and she's sharing now, because she's been bringing her fire every time she's up. So I love it. And shout out to the livest chat on YouTube one more time. And if you're new, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. All right, everybody hit the like before you leave, and go follow the community and join the community on totalmindsetshit.com. Man, I got it. I'm getting better, Coach.
Doing
with
good,
that said, yeah, I'm trying. With that said, we love you. We see you next week, and make yourself available to the people you love always. Yeah.